Have you ever noticed that certain people appear in our lives at crucial moments? It's as if they were sent for a purpose, whether it's to convey a message or to help us overcome a challenge. Have you ever had that feeling of déjà vu when you meet someone, as if you've met them before? In this video, we'll explore the idea that people come into our lives for specific reasons. So, sit back and watch until the end, because what you're about to hear could have a profound impact on your life. But first, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share the video. This helps us continue to create valuable content every week for your spiritual growth. People come into our lives for a reason. One day, while the old monk Hataka was meditating under a cherry blossom tree, a young man named Hiroshi respectfully approached him and asked, "Master, sometimes I meet people and feel a positive feeling, as if I have known them before or if they have a special affinity with my soul. Other times, I feel a negative feeling, as if that person has come to hurt me, and this makes me uneasy." Hataka, with a penetrating gaze, replied, "People never come into our lives by chance. This truth is deeper than we can imagine. In life, we meet different people, and each one has a place and a role in our story. Some come and go, while others stay and accompany us for different periods." The monk slowly stood up and pointed to the blue sky above them. "Look at the birds, young friend. They do not fly by chance. They are carried by the air currents, just as we are carried by the invisible forces of existence." Hiroshi gazed at the birds in the sky, trying to grasp the depth of his master's words. Hataka added, "Imagine your life as a garden. Each person who crosses your path is like a seed planted by destiny. Some grow like colorful flowers that last a season, others like mighty trees that endure through the years, but each one brings the promise of new growth." Hiroshi nodded, reflecting on the many flowers and trees he had seen bloom throughout his life. Hataka continued, "The people who hurt us are often our greatest teachers. They are sharp stones in our path, and despite the pain, they teach us to grow and find our inner strength." The young monk closed his eyes, reliving the challenges that had tempered his soul over time. Hataka continued, pointing to a majestic tree. "There are those who appear when we need them most. Just as the roots of this tree sustain it on stormy days, these people sustain us in difficult times." Hiroshi thought of someone who had been his refuge during a difficult time, a solid anchor in the midst of a storm, even if that person had later left his life. Hataka wisely concluded, "Some remain with us forever. They are like fixed stars in the sky, bright and constant. True friends, family members, or soulmates. With them we share the burdens of our days and the joy of our successes." The young monk smiled, feeling overcome with gratitude for the special people he had met and had by his side. Hataka looked up at the sky, a subtle light dancing in his eyes, and said, "Recognize and appreciate each person who crosses your path, young Hiroshi. Each one is an essential part of your story, and you are part of theirs. Life is an intricate web of destinies, and each encounter contributes to the fabric of your existence." Hiroshi listened intently, absorbing the wisdom of his master's words, understanding that each person in his life had a purpose and each encounter had a deeper meaning. "There are fundamentally three types of individuals," Hataka continued, "those who support us on the path of our evolution, pushing us to overcome limits and reach new levels of consciousness. Those who bring a breath of renewal to our inner world, and those who encourage us to continue. This last category of traveling companions can accompany us only for a brief moment." The young man absorbed this wisdom, understanding that although some people stayed only for a short time, their role was crucial. They reminded him of the true nature of the path, strengthening his resolve to move forward. The master's words helped Hiroshi continue his journey, enlightened by Hataka's teachings. Each encounter, whether with a casual passerby or a lifelong partner, became a precious piece in the mosaic of his existence. Over the years, Hiroshi learned that each person and experience carried with it a hidden gift, a precious teaching that contributed to his spiritual growth and fulfillment. Over time, the novice himself became a senior monk with wise eyes and a grateful heart. In his role as spiritual guide, he shared with the young monks the profound truth taught to him by Hataka, that life is a constant flow of meaningful encounters, each of which contributes to the unique beauty of our existence. In conclusion, the moral of this story is that in life, every encounter, regardless of its duration or intensity, contributes to the richness of our existence. Life is a wonderful journey of discovery, and each person who crosses our path brings with them a unique gift. Sometimes these people leave for no apparent reason. Other times, they misbehave and force you to walk away. What we need to understand is that their work is done because one of our needs or desires has been met. Unwanted help, lessons from a monk. In a serene Buddhist monastery surrounded by lush gardens and ancient trees, the wise monk Noro gathered his disciples to discuss a topic of great importance to them. Their curiosity was evident, and their eyes were fixed on Noro, eager to understand why their attempts to help others often did not turn out as they had hoped. Life is like a great river, and each of us is a small boat sailing along its current, Noro began in a quiet voice. Too often, we try to steer other people's boats without being asked. To illustrate his point, Noro shared an ancient story about a young monk who, eager to help a fellow monk in need, intervened without being asked. Although his intentions were good, the monk's intervention set off a series of unexpected events, creating a complex maze of challenges for both of them. Suffering is a necessary lesson in our spiritual growth, Noro continued. Each individual, like a jewel, is shaped by the pressures of life and the challenges they face. But when we intervene uninvited, we rob them of the opportunity to learn, grow, and train. Noro then spoke of two friends, Shun and Masu, who had shared joys and sorrows since school. One day, Shun learned of Masu's financial problems and secretly decided to help by paying off some of his debts. Shun's intentions were naturally good, the master said. However, his gesture had unexpected and disastrous consequences. Masu, although grateful, was deprived of the opportunity to resolve the situation in his own way, leading to emotional estrangement and tension in the friendship. Unsolicited help created discord and confusion, showing how even good actions can have unintended consequences. Each individual is at the mercy of his own karma, Noro explained. Every action we take, good or bad, returns to us like an echo. When we help without being asked, we upset the delicate balance of another person's karma and paradoxically harm our own as well. The old monk shared more stories, such as that of a young man who, in trying to solve a dear friend's problems without her asking, found himself embroiled in a never-ending series of difficulties. If you enter a labyrinth that is not yours but someone else's, without being asked, Noro continued, you can set off a chain of events, creating a complex web of karmic connections. Your gesture of friendship, however well-intentioned, can end up causing more harm to your friend and to yourself. Noro explained that even Buddha understood the sacredness of the individual learning process and how each being's karma must be respected. Suffering is a very harsh but precious teacher, Noro continued. To interfere in this process is to deprive others of the wisdom that only suffering itself can teach. He spoke of many times when empathy led him to offer help, but he emphasized that Buddha taught the wisdom of waiting for the person to ask for help themselves. Every action we take is like throwing a stone into a pond, Noro said, using a metaphor. Ripples spread out and come back to us. When we help without being asked, we not only influence the karma of others, but we create ripples that can impact our own lives. In conclusion, the lesson of this story is a reminder of the wisdom of discerning when to reach out and when to wait. Karma, like an unstoppable river, carries our actions with it, and the way we offer our help can alter the very fabric of destiny. Before you reach out to help someone, remember that each encounter and each challenge is part of their own karmic journey. Sometimes the best help we can offer is to allow them to navigate their own path. Noro advised that we should reflect on what people really need. Not everyone seeks advice. Sometimes they just need a listening ear and an understanding heart. So always remember to respect the sacredness of each individual human path. Help should never be an impulsive act, but rather a conscious gesture, respectful of the free will and the path of personal and spiritual growth of others and ourselves. Life is an intricate web of lessons and opportunities for growth. When we offer our help without being asked, we can deprive others of the precious opportunity to learn about themselves. Wisdom lies in recognizing that sometimes the best lesson is the one learned through one's own effort and experience. So let our help be a beacon of light offered when asked, with awareness and respect, rather than a chain of unexpected events. As Noro continued to speak, his disciples listened intently, absorbing each word with reverence and awe. The monks' lessons resonated deeply within them, resonating with their own experiences and challenges. They began to realize the importance of allowing others to follow their own path and face their own struggles without undue interference. To reinforce his message, Noro shared another story, this time about a young woman named Hannah. Hannah was an extremely generous person, always willing to help her friends and family. One day, she learned that her brother was struggling at work and decided to step in, offering advice and trying to solve his problems. However, her help was not well received. Her brother, feeling invaded and unable to deal with his own issues, ended up emotionally withdrawing from Hannah. Their relationship became strained, and Hannah realized that her good intentions had caused more harm than good. Noro then explained that oftentimes our intentions are noble, but the way we offer help can be harmful. We need to be aware of when it is appropriate to intervene and when it is better to wait for the person to ask for help themselves. Each of us has our own path to follow, and part of our spiritual growth is learning to navigate life's challenges on our own. He told the story of a farmer who, upon seeing a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon, decided to help. He carefully opened the cocoon, allowing the butterfly to emerge easily. However, in doing so, he prevented the butterfly from developing the strength it needed to fly. The butterfly, now weak and unable to support its own weight, did not survive for long. This story teaches us that the process of struggle and suffering is essential for our development and strengthening, Noro said. The disciples began to understand that true compassion lies in allowing others to face their own struggles, offering support only when asked. They reflected on their own lives and how their well-intentioned interventions might have negatively impacted those they loved. Noro spoke about the importance of self-care and respecting our own boundaries. When we help others without being asked, we often neglect our own needs and well-being. This can lead to burnout and imbalance in our lives. We need to remember that we cannot pour from an empty cup. Taking care of ourselves is essential to truly helping others in an effective and healthy way. He then shared a meditation practice that his disciples could use to cultivate patience and the wisdom to wait for the right moment to help. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing. Imagine yourself as a large, strong tree, rooted in the ground and gently swaying in the wind. Allow yourself to feel the stability and calm of this tree. When thoughts of worry or a desire to help arise, visualize yourself as a tree, steady and patient, waiting for others to come to you when they are ready to receive your help. The disciples followed Noro's guidance, feeling calmer and better equipped to apply this new wisdom to their lives. They realized that by waiting patiently and offering support consciously, they could truly make a positive difference without getting in the way of others. At the end of the session, Noro reminded his disciples that the spiritual journey is ongoing and that constant practice is necessary to cultivate wisdom and compassion. Remember, life is a series of lessons and opportunities for growth. Every challenge we face is a chance to learn and evolve. When we offer our help with awareness and respect, we allow others to grow and grow stronger as well. The disciples dispersed, each carrying with them the profound lessons they had learned. They were determined to apply this new perspective to their lives and to share Noro's wisdom with others. And so the wisdom of the monastery spread, touching many lives and bringing peace and understanding to those seeking the true meaning of compassion and mutual assistance. Over time, Noro's teachings became an integral part of life at the monastery. The disciples began to notice subtle but significant changes in their interactions with others. They became more patient, understanding, and aware of when it was appropriate to intervene and when it was better to wait. This new approach not only improved their personal relationships, but also strengthened the community as a whole. Noro continued to share stories and teachings, always emphasizing the importance of respecting each individual's path. He spoke of the interconnectedness of all things and how our actions, no matter how small, can have a profound and lasting impact. Every gesture, every word, every thought creates a ripple in the great lake of life, he said. We need to be aware of the ripples we create and the consequences they can have for ourselves and others. One day, Noro gathered his disciples for a meditative walk through the monastery gardens. As they walked in silence, he asked them to observe the beauty around them and reflect on the nature of impermanence. Everything in this garden is constantly changing, Noro said. Flowers bloom and wither, leaves fall and new ones sprout. Such is life. We must accept and embrace this impermanence, knowing that each moment is precious and unique. At the end of the walk, Noro led a meditation under an ancient fig tree, which was a symbol of wisdom and longevity in the monastery. He asked his disciples to close their eyes and visualize a golden light in their hearts, representing the compassion and wisdom they were cultivating. Allow this light to grow and expand, radiating love and understanding to all around you. Know that by cultivating this light within you, you are helping to create a more compassionate and harmonious world. The disciples emerged from this experience with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. They were ready to face life's challenges with a new perspective, knowing that every conscious and compassionate action helped to create a positive impact on the world. They understood that true help comes from the heart and must be offered with respect and consideration for each individual's unique path. Thus, Noro's wisdom continued to flourish in the monastery, touching the lives of many and leaving a lasting legacy of compassion, patience, and understanding. His teachings have echoed through the generations, reminding everyone that true help is that which respects the freedom and personal growth of each human being. And so, peace and harmony prevailed, transforming the monastery into a beacon of light and wisdom for all who sought the true meaning of life and human relationships. If you are enjoying these valuable lessons and identifying with the stories we are sharing, don't forget to like this video. This helps us continue to bring you content full of wisdom and inspiration. The secret to recognizing toxic people. In a serene Buddhist monastery, isolated in the remote landscapes of Japan, lived the wise old monk Hogi. A young woman named Shara, restless and searching for answers to the anguish she felt due to some toxic relationships, respectfully approached the master. Hogi, they say you know the secret to recognizing harmful people and protecting inner peace. Please teach me, asked the young woman, demonstrating a sincere desire to absorb the monk's wisdom. Hogi, with his usual calm, replied, "Of course, my dear. If you have the patience to listen to me, I will tell you about the signs you need to look for in order to understand who is in front of you. First of all, however, let me make an important premise. The people we call evil for the sake of simplicity are not necessarily monsters. They are toxic in the sense that, with their behavior and the energies they emanate, they can undermine our serenity and mental well-being. However, before pushing them away from us, we must try to understand the reasons that led them to be the way they are. Many times, it is the pains and trials they have faced that have made them dry, irritating, and even harmful. So, dear Shara, before pushing someone away from you, ask yourself why he or she behaves this way. Is this person really evil, or is there something that made him or her this way? And can I do something to prevent this from continuing to pollute my emotions? Only after you have answered these questions should you decide whether to preserve your mental health and push these people away." Shara reflected on Hogi's words and was moved by the deep empathy behind them. If someone around us can harm us, we should only remove them after we are sure that we cannot do anything to them, Hogi continued. Now that we have that out of the way, let's start by looking at the first sign you should watch out for: constant manipulation. Imagine a person who, with devious skill, distorts reality to get what he wants. It could be a colleague who uses deception to advance his career. For example, when there is a possible promotion, he starts manipulating you, saying that some superiors are talking badly about you and suggesting that you accept a job offer from another company. You may think he is doing this for your own good, but in reality, he wants to get you out of the way. The young woman listened attentively, fascinated by the monk's wisdom, and remembered a similar experience she had had a year earlier. The second sign is a lack of genuine empathy, Hogi continued. Think of someone who is indifferent to your feelings or experiences, who only seems interested when it benefits them. This behavior can deeply undermine the quality of personal relationships because you instinctively feel that this person does not really care about your fate. They only show empathy when they have to ask for something in return. Hogi then described the third sign, the constant creation of conflict. Imagine a person who, despite any harmonious situation, always seeks conflict, fueling arguments and discord. This attitude not only creates stress in relationships, but can also contaminate the environment around them, making it toxic. The fourth sign is the constant need for control, Hogi added. Imagine a friend or partner trying to influence your every decision, trying to direct your life according to their desires. Every time you reveal your plan or desire, this person begins to take initiatives to try to move you away from what you want in favor of their own goals. Hogi's teachings gave Shara the wisdom to recognize toxic behaviors and the importance of empathy and discernment when dealing with others. This wisdom allowed her to protect her inner peace while remaining compassionate to those around her. The true meaning of forgiveness. The Buddha, with a serene smile, raised his hand to stop them. He gently wiped his face and looked at the merchant with compassion. "Thank you," Buddha said softly. The merchant was perplexed. "Why do you thank me?" he asked. Buddha replied, "You have given me the opportunity to practice patience and compassion." The merchant's anger began to dissipate as he saw Buddha's peaceful demeanor. Confused and humbled, he asked, "But how can you forgive me so easily?" Buddha explained, Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Forgiveness is not for the benefit of the other person, but for your own peace and liberation. The merchant reflected on Buddha's words and realized the burden of his own anger. He bowed deeply and left with a new understanding. He later encouraged his children to follow Buddha's teachings, realizing the true wealth of spiritual wisdom. As the story ended, Master Kumin looked at the man sitting before him. Forgiveness, he said, is not about condoning the actions of others or forgetting the pain they have caused. It is about freeing yourself from the chains of anger and resentment. It is about understanding that everyone is on their own path and sometimes acts out of their own suffering. By forgiving, you free yourself from the grip of that suffering. The man nodded, feeling a weight lifted from his heart. Thank you, Master Kumin. I now understand that forgiveness is a gift I give to myself, not to others. Kumin smiled and concluded, remember that forgiveness is a practice, not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process of letting go and finding peace within yourself. This story teaches us that true forgiveness is about inner peace and liberation. It is not about excusing the behavior of others, but about freeing ourselves from the emotional burden of holding on to anger and resentment. By practicing forgiveness, we can cultivate a sense of compassion and understanding, both for ourselves and for those who have hurt us. This, in turn, allows us to move forward on our spiritual journey with a lighter heart and a clearer mind. But Buddha remained unfazed, with a calm gaze and a persistent smile. Kumin described the atmosphere that followed as if a wave of calm had enveloped the place. Buddha did not react with anger. He accepted the seemingly offensive act with an open heart. The merchant, seeing Buddha's reaction, realized the futility of his actions, and the anger he had harbored turned into remorse. All the accusations and insults he had prepared seemed insignificant in the face of this peaceful presence. Buddha did not condemn the man, nor did he humiliate him. Instead, he offered him compassion and peace. At this point, the monk interrupted the narration to highlight a crucial lesson. Dear friend, forgiveness is like that piece of Buddha. It is not something we do concretely. It is not simply saying, I forgive you. It is something that happens when we are willing to let go of the past and see the being before us in a new light. The monk took up the story again and described how the man, touched by Buddha's compassion, returned home. The images of the peaceful Buddha and his spitting on his face collided in his mind. That night, the man could not sleep, his mind dominated by the image of the smiling Buddha and the spitting he had committed against him. The man, Kumin said, was at a crossroads between remorse for his past and the possibility of a different future. Kumin emphasized the importance of this pivotal moment in history. The man was going through a process of deep introspection. He was trying to forgive himself, feeling guilty and ashamed for his behavior. After days of inner torment, the man realized that his imagination was constantly constructing painful scenarios based on that past experience. Imagination, Kumin said, can be a powerful ally or a fierce enemy. In the wrong hands, it can create an endless cycle of anger and resentment. Over time, the man began to understand that Buddha had not reacted to his actions with judgment, but with a very clear purpose. Slowly, he let go of thoughts of revenge and began to sincerely seek forgiveness. One day, he returned to Buddha's feet, no longer in anger, but in genuine repentance. Forgive me, O great master, he begged. My ignorance has blinded me. I was only focused on my life and the prosperity of my family. Buddha, with half-open eyes and a peaceful smile, listened to the man's words, but when he asked for forgiveness, Buddha shook his head. "I cannot forgive you," he said gently, "because there is nothing to forgive. You have done nothing wrong to me." Surprised, the man asked Buddha why he would not forgive him. Human explained that Buddha had nothing to forgive because he had accepted the man's act without judgment. It was as if Buddha saw beyond the past and present, sensing the pure essence of the individual. This refusal to forgive taught the man a valuable lesson. Forgiveness is not only an act of mercy toward others, but also an internal process of liberation. Buddha taught, Human continued, that to forgive is to perform an act of compassion both toward others and toward ourselves. Impressed by Buddha's wisdom, the man began to reflect deeply on the meaning of forgiveness. The idea that forgiveness was not something that could be given or received, but rather an internal experience of liberation, had a profound impact on him. The story continued with the merchant, inspired by Buddha, deciding to embark on a path of self-forgiveness. Over time, he learned to let go of the guilt and shame that plagued him. The practice of meditation became his refuge, where he learned to observe each moment without being overwhelmed by memories of the past or worries about the future. "Dear friend," Human said, turning to the man who had been listening intently, "forgiveness is not just a gesture we make toward others, but an act of kindness that extends to ourselves. Just as when we learn to see each moment with new eyes, overcoming painful memories and letting go of our destructive imaginations, we can find inner peace." The story concluded with the merchant, who, inspired by spiritual practice, eventually healed the wounds of the past and approached the Buddha to thank him. The Buddha, with his compassionate smile, welcomed him with joy. Human concluded the story by emphasizing that forgiveness, both for others and for oneself, is a complex and profound process in our spiritual journey. Forgiveness, he said, guides us to a higher level of awareness and compassion. It is a gift we can offer to ourselves and others, freeing us from the chains of the past and opening the door to a brighter future. But what is the moral of this story, and what does it teach us? The moral is clear. Forgiveness in the Buddhist view is not an act but a state of being. It is not something we can give or receive, but a gift of compassion that can be extended to oneself and others. In this approach, forgiveness becomes a means of making those who have done wrong understand the extent of their actions. The compassion and kindness with which we offer forgiveness become tools to open the eyes of those who have done wrong, leading them to a deeper awareness. Whoever commits an evil act against someone else is actually committing it against himself, because karma will make the effects fall upon him like a boomerang. He will have to forgive himself. Remember that forgiveness is not only a personal liberation, but a process that can lead to the transformation of others. By opening yourself to the kind of forgiveness we have spoken of, you promote awareness and growth, creating a bridge to a future of understanding and serenity. The dark side of kindness. Sometimes we are so kind and gentle that we forget about ourselves, allowing others to take advantage of our kindness. The dark side of kindness is believing that we should always be kind, which can lead us to become invisible. Have you ever wondered why you tend to be so kind, or why some people are always willing to help, even without being asked? In the Zen story that you will soon hear, you will discover that there is a dark side to kindness. If you want to live in peace, you need to understand this aspect in order to find the right balance. Stay until the end, because the advice you will receive will help you live your relationships with more serenity and find your inner peace. In a monastery in the mountains of Japan, there lived the old monk Ero, famous for his extreme wisdom. One day, a young woman named Kiera approached him, confiding in him about her disappointments. "Master, over time, I have accumulated many disappointments with people I thought were friends, but who have disappointed me. I have always been extremely kind, but my concern for others has only brought me pain. What am I doing wrong?" The master smiled gently and began to tell an ancient legend, passed down from generation to generation among the monks. The story was about a village surrounded by a lush forest, where kindness and generosity were the beating heart of the community. The prosperity of that village was linked to a magnificent cherry tree, a symbol of the strength and generosity of the villagers. Legend has it that the village prospered thanks to the wisdom of the people who learned to share their resources. However, over time, some people began to take more than they gave. They picked the cherry tree's fruits without contributing to its care or sharing them with the other villagers. Little by little, the village's generosity began to weaken, and with it, the entire community. Kiera listened intently, her eyes reflecting a desire to understand the nuances of life. Arrow, with his serene gaze, continued to share the village's history, bringing to light details and teachings passed down through the centuries. The moral of this story, the monk said, is that generosity must be balanced. We must give with an open heart, but with wisdom and balance. If we give without discernment, we risk depleting our resources and weakening our ability to be truly useful to others. Kiera was happy to hear the master's words, and a new awareness of kindness arose within her. We may think that kindness is always good, because it helps maintain our well-being, Arrow continued. However, when it crosses boundaries and leads to acting kindly in all circumstances, it becomes toxic kindness, a form of foolishness in which we forget to be attentive to the needs of others. Arrow enriched the story with new details. He described how some people, in their desire to accumulate, neglected their duty to care for the tree that had given them so much. He explained how the connection between giving and receiving was a delicate balance, a harmonious flow that required attention and respect. Kiera, immersed in the story, began to reflect on her own life and the relationships she had experienced over the years. The monk, sensing her desire to learn, continued to share his wisdom. He spoke about how expecting too much from others can lead to disappointment and how setting boundaries is essential to maintaining emotional well-being. "Remember," Arrow said, "I am not saying that doing something for others is wrong. However, focusing only on others can be problematic. There are times when we want to please others because they ask for our help or because we believe, sometimes mistakenly, that they need us, and we offer ourselves to make them feel good." Time passed peacefully as Arrow and Kiera delved into the nuances of generosity and wisdom. The monk spoke about how generosity, when it comes from a balanced heart, can transform relationships and bring joy to both the giver and the receiver. Kiera felt that the monk's wisdom was helping her understand many things. She learned that generosity should flow like a harmonious current, fueled by deep awareness and sincere love, and that it should never be forced. Arrow concluded his narration with a loving piece of advice. "Kiera, try to be like the cherry tree in the village. Give generously, but keep a balance. Find joy in the act of giving without expecting much in return. Remember that extreme kindness can be harmful. Sometimes we don't leave room for others to achieve what they want because we anticipate their needs. Furthermore, we focus so much on what others need that we forget about our own needs. In this way, we nullify ourselves and begin to become invisible due to our own actions. By always being attentive to the needs of others, our own needs take a backseat and we trample ourselves, taking away our value and allowing others to take advantage of it." Kiera thanked the monk with a heart full of gratitude. She felt that the story and the advice she received would mark a new chapter in her life. But what does this story teach us? The moral is that generosity is a powerful gift, but it must be cultivated with care and awareness, so that it benefits both us and those who receive our help. The balance between giving and receiving is the key to a fulfilling and meaningful life. If we are too kind and willing to do whatever is asked of us just to be considered a good person, we end up not knowing how to say no, and, in the long run, we are taken advantage of. This can have repercussions on personal motivation, self-esteem, and our mental balance. So what should we do? Should we stop being a good person? No, because there are several ways to be kind in a healthier way. We can set boundaries, make others realize how far they can go, say goodbye to guilt, learn to say no when we can't or don't want to go further, and make a list of priorities. This way, we can continue to help others without neglecting ourselves. Remember to be kind, but not excessively so, as this can harm yourself and even those you want to help. Protect yourself from those who want to harm you. How many times have you felt that someone came into your life with the intention of destroying your dreams and goals? Unfortunately, we often have to deal with people who, out of personal grudges, frustrations, or envy, want to harm us. In this Zen story, you will learn to recognize the signs that someone wants to harm you, and if you stay until the end, you will also discover how to protect yourself. In a peaceful Buddhist monastery in the mountains of Japan, there lived the old monk Aizen, famous for his wisdom and deep knowledge of the human soul. On a winter day, as the aroma of boiling tea filled the air, his disciples gathered in the temple to hear Aizen speak on a crucial subject. "Today, we will discuss an important topic," said the monk in a calm but penetrating voice. "We will talk about the 8 signs that reveal who, among those who enter our lives, may want to destroy us." One of the disciples, eager to learn more, asked Master Aizen, "What are these signs? How can we protect ourselves from those who seek to harm us?" Aizen nodded and introduced the first sign, telling an old anecdote. Once upon a time, in the Vila monastery, there was a sage who possessed a precious gem. A cunning man approached him, praising his wisdom and asking to see the gem. As the sage showed him the stone, the trickster exchanged it for a shard of glass. The sage realized too late that he had been tricked, losing the gem that would ensure his peaceful old age. "Manipulation is like a silent shadow," Aizen continued. "Those who seek to destroy us will use cunning and trickery to distort reality and deceive us. We must learn to recognize these subtle games of manipulation in order to protect ourselves." The disciples began to reflect on times when they had been manipulated, and Aizen told another story to illustrate the second sign: destructive criticism. Imagine a flower garden that, instead of being lovingly cared for, is constantly trampled on. Although it may seem like a small gesture, over time the garden dries up and the flowers wither. Constant criticism is like heavy footsteps that crush our self-esteem. Those who wish to destroy us will use derogatory words and constant judgments to undermine our spirit. We must distinguish between constructive criticism, which helps us grow, and destructive criticism, which only weakens our confidence. With a smile, Aizen introduced the third sign: social isolation. In a small village, there was a fisherman who was loved by everyone for his character and helpfulness. An envious individual began to spread false stories about him, and gradually the fisherman found himself isolated. Many friends abandoned him, and within a few months, his life changed radically. He lost customers, and his business went into crisis. Isolating someone is like cutting the roots of a tree. Those who wish to destroy us will try to separate us from others, creating divisions and spreading suspicion. To avoid this, we must cultivate strong connections and resist attempts to isolate ourselves. To discuss the fourth sign, slander, Aizen invited one of his disciples to tell a story. In a region not far away, there was a merchant who was respected by all. A malicious rival began spreading unfounded rumors about his honesty, undermining his reputation and causing the community to begin to despise him. Little by little, people stopped buying from him, leading him to close his shop and move. Slander is a poison that eats away at our integrity. We must defend our reputation with truth and transparency, ensuring that lies do not resonate with others. Through these stories, Aizen imparted wisdom on how to recognize and deal with the many ways in which others can try to harm us, emphasizing the importance of awareness, strong connections, and maintaining our integrity. The disciples, some in tears, reflected on how they could avoid being harmed in the future. Aizen then spoke of the fifth sign, sabotage of opportunities. Imagine a craftsman who, every time he was about to achieve success, someone sabotaged his work. Tools disappeared, plans were ruined, materials were damaged. Despite his skill, he could not progress. Sabotage is like a wind that extinguishes the flames of our success. Those who wish to destroy us will seek to create obstacles. We must remain vigilant, protecting our path to success and keeping our ideas safe. As the day wore on and the hot tea relaxed the disciples, Aizen addressed the sixth sign, violation of privacy, recounting a legend. In an ancient city, there was a keeper of secrets. Someone envious tried to spy on his manuscripts in order to steal the secrets, but the keeper, thanks to a trusted collaborator, remained vigilant. Remember that your privacy is sacred. Those who wish to destroy us will try to invade our intimate space. We must protect our private sphere by carefully selecting the people we trust. As the mist descended, making the monastery's surroundings even more enchanting, Aizen introduced the seventh sign, espionage. In a distant land, there lived a virtuous warrior. A rival, fearing his strength, sent spies to study his movements. But the warrior, with keen intuition, discovered the intrigues and repelled them. Espionage is like a shadow trying to steal our mental clarity. We must be aware of external influences and protect our autonomy. Finally, Aizen shared the eighth sign, physical aggression and threats. In a remote valley, a devout monk tried to turn young criminals to the right path. A devious individual, whose dark interests were threatened by the monk's actions, tried to physically destroy him, ordering him to be beaten so that fear would induce him to desist. Physical aggression is the extreme border of darkness. We must protect ourselves, seeking help when necessary. At the end of the day, Aizen looked at his disciples with compassionate eyes. My children, life is an intricate dance. Others can be our guides or our shadows. Watch and be alert to these signs, but do not live in constant fear. Cultivate a garden of trust and respect around you. Surround yourself with trustworthy people, and do not allow the shadows to destroy the light within you. Loneliness and the search for authenticity. I feel alone, and the lack of friends seems to be a problem. The people around me seem happy with their friendships, and I wonder why I can't experience that same joy. Monk Kobo looked at her with compassionate eyes and invited her to sit down. Alina, friendship is truly a precious gift, but your happiness should not depend on the number of friends you have. I would like to share with you the reasons why not having many friends, or even none at all, can be an advantage, not something to worry about, he said. Kobo, with his wisdom gained from decades of study and reflection, began to reveal the secrets of authentic friendship. Dear Elena, the first thing I want to tell you is that relationships and human bonds are very important. This means that in life we should not measure them by quantity, but by quality. Would you rather have a large number of people with anyone to share trivial things, or on the contrary, a very small number of people with whom to share intense emotions and moods? Faced with these rhetorical questions, Elena began to reflect and understand. Many of the people he saw around him were surrounded by friends, but what was the quality of those relationships? She wondered. Kobo, happy to see that the young woman was starting to see things differently, continued listing the reasons why having few or no friends should not be seen as a problem. Having few friends guarantees a certain degree of freedom and authenticity. This way, it's easier to be yourself and live without restrictions or external influences. If you want to live a fulfilling life, you don't need to conform to what others think is normal. After all, who decides what normality is? Kobo continued explaining that quantity is never synonymous with quality. Having fewer friends allows you to focus on building deeper, more meaningful relationships. Imagine having just one friend with whom you share life's joys and sorrows. This connection can be so deep that the person understands all of your emotional nuances. It's a priceless treasure. Elena reflected on this idea, remembering an episode in which a girl she knew supported her in a difficult time, understanding her without needing many words. She began to understand that, in life, instead of wanting to have dozens of friends who aren't really friends, it's much better to focus on finding that one person who reads and sees life like you. Kobo, after giving Elena time to reflect, continued with his explanations. Human relationships require a lot of emotional energy. Having few friends allows you to focus that energy on the people who really matter. Think about how much conflict or tension often occurs in large groups of friends. Keeping relationships small allows you to preserve your positive energy for those who really support you. If you have to argue with someone to resolve a conflict, it's much better for it to be a person who really matters in your life, right? Elena found that group dynamics were often stressful, while more intimate interactions brought her joy and comfort. Kobo went on to highlight how loneliness can be an opportunity to explore oneself and grow personally. In the tranquility of your solitude, you may discover hidden passions, latent interests, or untapped talents. You are not limited by the expectations of others, and this allows you to grow in surprising ways. So, dear Lena, my invitation is to see another solitude way. Having few but good friends allows us to more easily find moments to be alone with ourselves, and this significantly helps our spiritual and personal growth. Elena thought about how much time she could devote to her personal interests when she wasn't trying at all costs to be with groups of people. How dedicating herself to herself in solitude distanced her from that search for other people's approval that wasn't good for her. In those moments, she discovered aspects of herself that she didn't even know, and it was beautiful. Finally, Kobo emphasized that the absence of social limitations allows for greater flexibility in our lives. Imagine being offered a job opportunity in a faraway place. With no strings attached, you are free to embrace new adventures without having to think about how they will affect your social circle. Elena put herself in the shoes of those who, with less close ties, were able to take advantage of opportunities without restrictions. He met people who, thanks to this extreme autonomy, flew far away to fulfill their dreams and expectations. Kobo concluded, when you have few friends, but these are genuine, you can move to the other side of the world, but you will never lose them. They will remain by your side beyond space and time. After listening carefully, the young woman understood that she had developed a new awareness of the concept of friendship. Not having many friends doesn't mean being alone, but being able to focus on your inner self and searching for some connections that really matter. Her master Kobo hugged her gently and added, always remember that your happiness should not depend on the number of friends you have, but on the quality of the connections you cultivate with the few you have. I have met people who said they had no friends, only to discover that in their lives there was only one person, just one, who counted as a true friend. And remember something else. The people who have few friends are the most authentic and deep people I have ever met. They are not content with mediocrity, generally those who tend not to get along with everyone and want to have few people around them. They have an extraordinary inner world and truly rare human qualities. In conclusion, the moral of this story is that loneliness, seen from a new perspective, can be a valuable ally in the search for happiness, spiritual growth, and personal fulfillment, and therefore, it should not be feared. To live happily, it is not necessary to have a crowd of friends. We hope that these stories and teachings have touched your heart and provided deep reflections on human connections and the path to true inner peace. Remember, every person who comes into our lives brings with him a valuable lesson. Now, we have a special request for you. If these stories resonated with you, please share this video with your friends and family. By doing this, you will be helping to spread wisdom and inspiration to even more people. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to continue receiving more content that nourishes the soul and spirit. And we really want to know your opinion. Leave a comment below telling which of these stories impacted you the most and why. Together, we can build a community of learning and mutual growth. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's walk this path of wisdom and compassion together.